India's automobile industry has raised a new concern around petrol quality, but this time the issue is not ethanol itself. Industry body SIAM had flagged cases of high chloride levels and moisture in fuel, saying contamination could corrode vehicle components and potentially damage parts such as fuel pumps, fuel injectors and EGR valves. But hours later, SIAM withdrew the letter, saying some of the numbers it had cited needed further authentication and more data from across the country. The Petroleum Ministry meanwhile says extensive testing is already underway and that out of more than 2,000 fuel samples tested specifically for chloride and sulphide contamination, only 2 cases of chloride contamination have been detected so far. So what exactly is going on? Is there a problem with E20 Petrol itself, or are isolated cases of contaminated fuel getting mixed up with the wider debate around ethanol blending? Hi, I'm Nupur and you're watching Control Z, your cheat code to navigating adulthood. Let's start with what SIAM, the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, originally told the government. In a letter sent to the Petroleum Ministry on 28th July, SIAM said that investigations into failures of certain vehicle components had found corrosion or were linked to high chloride presence traced to the fuel used. Now, according to the industry body, chloride can be highly damaging to vehicle components. If present or allowed to accumulate in the fuel system, it can cause corrosion and potentially lead to permanent damage, either immediately or over time. Now, SIAM's concerns included problems involving fuel pumps, fuel injectors and EGR valves. Your fuel pump moves fuel from the tank to the engine. Fuel injectors control how that fuel enters the combustion system, and the EGR or exhaust gas recirculation valve is part of the vehicle's emission control system. Problems with these components can mean repairs or replacements for vehicle owners. SIAM therefore asked the government to include a specific chloride limit in E20 fuel specifications and strengthen quality control by oil marketing companies and petrol pumps. But then came an important development. SIAM withdrew the letter. In its clarification, the industry body said some of the numbers quoted in the communication needed to be authenticated through more extensive data collection across different parts of India, followed by consultation with its member automobile manufacturers. Now, SIAM also acknowledged steps already taken by the Petroleum Ministry. The ministry has introduced a 3 parts per million precautionary guideline for chloride and sulfur in ethanol entering the petrol blending supply chain. And SIAM subsequently said these measures fully meet the need of the automobile industry. At the same time, the Petroleum Ministry has responded to the broader debate around fuel contamination. It says oil marketing companies are carrying out regular quality checks across the fuel supply chain. According to the ministry, water ingress testing is being carried out between 8 and 12 times every day at more than 87,000 fuel outlets across the country. That's particularly relevant because moisture contamination was another concern raised in the debate. The government also says that more than 2,000 samples have been specifically tested for chloride and sulphide contamination. And according to the ministry, only 2 cases of chloride contamination have been detected so far. So sales from those pumps were immediately suspended, and the government therefore argues that the available evidence does not point to widespread contamination of fuel. But there's a larger distinction that consumers need to understand. E20 petrol and contaminated E20 petrol are not the same issue. E20 describes petrol containing approximately 20% ethanol. The current concern is whether unwanted substances such as excessive chloride or water are entering the fuel somewhere in the production, transportation, storage or retail chain. In other words, the question isn't necessarily whether ethanol is damaging the vehicle, at least in this debate. It's whether the fuel being supplied meets the required quality standards. And the government says those checks begin before ethanol even reaches a petrol pump. Every batch of ethanol procured for blending must comply with the relevant Bureau of Indian Standards specification and have a minimum purity of 99.6%. Each dispatch from the distillery to an oil marketing company depot is accompanied by a quality report, and there is evidence that batches which fail those standards are actually being rejected. Between July 2024 and June 2026, according to the Petroleum Ministry, 302 tank trucks carrying nearly 10,500 kiloliters of ethanol were rejected for failing parameters involving purity, water content or density. But for car owners, this episode has brought another part of E20 debate into focus. The percentage of ethanol in your petrol isn't the only thing that matters. The quality of the fuel going into your tank matters just as much.